From New York, you are listening to Extra Time. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Kalen C2 Carr, David Goss.
Kalen, I feel so bad, man. I just typed in your name and ACL in Google, and there's like a ton of content that comes up.
Why are you doing this?
Non sequiturs to start.
Was
it's a good
telling me about you tearing your ACL, so I was trying to see.
Jeez,
then you have to ask which time. Sorry, Kalen. I apologize.
Bummer
I know off the top.
I will
know where
say
it was going.
You've used it well though, because the third article that comes up is MLSsoccer.com. Kalen Carr explains why Jordan Morris's ACL injury may, and then it cuts off.
It started as a tragedy, a personal tragedy. It's now a brand.
Yeah, he's done it twice too.
Yeah. You guys have a
He's
club.
doing great. He's doing well. He's doing
doing well.
It's a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like Tommy John now, where you actually come back stronger.
The technology has improved, I believe.
Yeah. How do you feel about how do you think those injuries affect your men's league?
Good. So the only thing I'll say, they were trying to organize an Apple TV pickup game here in New York, right? So I'm like, I've been training, I've been getting ready for this, and then they scheduled it on a week that I'm gonna be gone calling a game, and I'm supposed to be. This is my chance.
This is your opportunity. This is your regularly scheduled chaotic banter.
It's like similar to 2005 when he trialed with Arsenal after playing for Orange County Blue Stars.
Are you just reading my Wikipedia?
Yeah, now I have it open. It is robust.
Have we met before? Have we been not doing shows through quarantine?
It's more interesting to do it this way. I'm not going to lie. By the way, Orlando City fans, I know you hate this part of the show, but we are going to dedicate some time to you, to Rivalry Week, to many things. We have an interview with Michael Vang in celebration of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, but take the floor, Dave.
Congrats, because the movement is in your Wikipedia thing.
Nice.
Extra time.
Who could have put that in there? Who would have?
Extra time's in there as well. I did not realize from the conversation about Reggie Miller that your mom's from Indianapolis.
Yeah, that was in the group chat. I put that in the group chat.
I was not paying attention to that part.
Dave is he's a sporadic.
Once I saw Reggie Miller's name, I got
triggered.
I just saw fury.
You got triggered.
And
I feel like this show for the listeners are just like, did they start this midway?
Sort of.
Okay.
Sort of. Look, it's a big show. It's a fun show.
Hey, Future
This
goes
is
on
in the spirit of the U.S. Open Cup and Canadian Championship. We do have a bullhorn over here. If somebody would like to go grab that and chuck it.
Wow.
You will no longer be allowed to be on the show or in the studio.
Man, they already got
Same
Apple
as if you're in a
TV
stadium
in your wiki. Opening sentence. He currently works for MLS as a match analyst for MLS Season Pass broadcasts on Apple TV.
Gosh,
how many times have you been on
updating this?
How many?
Help me.
Yeah. Anders
Who is
actually.
This man's either we got to check out the IPs.
Anders hired someone else,
agent,
so he has time to do this.
Or it's his mom.
Anders full time.
I do like Orange County Blue Stars. Got a shout out in that.
Yeah.
So many.
You gotta make sure.
Blue Star
cover
legends.
all the bases.
Squad.
Sasha Kleshton.
Cover all the bases.
Blue Star alumni.
We've never heard this story.
Yeah.
Anyway, why are we talking about his ACL? Well, Dave, tell the people where you're headed, and we'll jump straight into
I
the
am
show.
going to what we are terming Boyd's, Maryland, but I do believe all of the Maryland natives have told me it's Germantown for the Maryland Soccerplex. Yeah. Classic, which is where DC United has hosted many of their Open Cup games, and it will be the host of the MLS Next Flex tournament this weekend, which will be streamed on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. So we have 3 to 4 games every single day from Friday through Tuesday.
What is Flex about this? Help me understand Flex.
So MLS Next is the league.
Right, got that part.
MLS Next Cup is like the championships.
Okay, and Flex just rhymes with next, so it just fits.
Had to be in there. Flex is one of the ways you can qualify for the Next Cup.
Okay, gotcha.
So all of the teams, the winners of every group, will go to Next Cup, guaranteed, but they're also still playing league games. Otherwise, it's another way to qualify.
So there's a rivalry this weekend on MLS Next, or MLS Season Pass, between MLS Next and MLS and Rivalry Week. Should be interesting. Kalen is over here updating his own Wikipedia page if my spying eyes tell me anything. We had a bunch of midweek action. U.S. Open Cup rolling on, pushing into the round of 16. We have a number of entrants there. We have one cup set, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, knocking off the New England Revolution. So we'll dig into that in just a second. A Canadian Championship, I made the little reference off the top, but it got a little wild in Toronto, with Toronto and Montreal. Maybe a little too wild.
Le Classique.
Yes, Canadian Classique was a good time there. And, we got all the Rivalry Week games we'll talk through. Where in the world is Kalen Carr? The U20 roster for the U.S. is out. And, yes, Orlando fans, we have your deep dive. We have, alternating perspectives from Orlando fans. I've worn my
we have an
Orlando jersey on this show today. It's a Facundo Torres
Flown
jersey.
straight up from Orlando.
Where do I get these things?
Amazing.
Send me more. Some people don't want us to talk about them because they got knocked out of the Open Cup. They're the first reigning champ to lose their first match of their title defense in Seattle in 2015. So that's tough.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Wow.
It's been a while. They were hoping to field a pretty good lineup, but we'll dig into the Jekyll and Hyde nature of Orlando City and whether or not any pressure is indeed mounting on Oscar Pereira.
Good for Charlotte. I think last year they got knocked out by Greenville, right?
Yep. Things are turning around a little bit for Charlotte. It's been a nice week for them.
Yeah.
See if it can continue. They're part of Rivalry Week. They're in Atlanta, and that's an opportunity for them.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll talk through that as well. And we have an interview, as I said, with Michael Vang. He plays for T2. He played for Columbus Crew 2 last year, won a championship in MLS Next Pro. He is the first male professional soccer player from the Hmong people in the United States. He also just got capped by the Laotian national team. He's got an incredible story. Born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota. His dad started St. Paul United as a place for him and his brothers and sisters to play, and it's morphed into this incredible organization. So deep soccer roots and an awesome fitting celebration in May of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which we're big fans of here. So let's get started. Open Cup. I was there. We are just steeping my son Cameron in U.S. soccer culture, in U.S. Open Cup culture.
Wyatt didn't get the invite?
Wyatt doesn't have a bedtime that allows for him to attend.
So Cam got
for
the adults in the room.
Correct.
He got.
It was a tough moment for Wyatt because we had to sneak out, because if we leave in front of him, we're like, yeah, we're going someplace. He just melts down, like hardcore FOMO.
Oh wow, they got different rooms already.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
That's
That's the New
window
Jersey
into life. Yeah. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah. Well,
man,
keep living in Brooklyn. It's just
life.
It's just
Kalen,
your one bed and a parking spot out there in Brooklyn, Kalen. That's it. That's all you got. Indoor, outdoor space.
I had to take a call from there yesterday, by the way. That's how my work from home life is going. So
the 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. sit in the car while they clean the street.
That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. But it's a great night in Montclair. Kalen, you outed yourself in the pre-show meeting as not knowing what Montclair is as a place.
No.
Or a thing. It is a very nice suburb in Essex County, New Jersey, where the New York Red Bulls 2. Dave, I don't know if you know.
Home of the Bulls, baby Bulls.
There's a train that goes out there. I don't know if you've ever been to Montclair.
Trains wouldn't know, but I normally just jump in
transit.
the whip, and drive down over there.
Anyway, we made
I like the part
out.
where you sit in traffic and then pay for the tunnels.
And then also go through the parking garage and the big.
The parking garage is an experience.
Might have been the
Red Hawk parking deck is what we call it.
Might have been the highlight for Cameron. Maybe second to the Skittles gummies.
Nice.
Was very into the parking lot logistics, and then the Skittles gummies.
It is. Can we say though, it's the only way that Open Cup early round should be. It's like you should have a more intimate. Yes. I know Starfire gets joked about because it's not the best surface and like it's whatever, but early round Open Cup, like make it different, especially if you're playing another MLS team. Get your fans close. Like that's the way it should be.
I played a U.S. Open Cup game in Peoria, Illinois, against the Crew when I was with Chicago. I don't know why.
We
took a bus out to Peoria. There's like way deep
there.
I think we were just expanding the brand.
Yeah,
we were just extending the brand. It
the
was
NBA
awesome.
does this
like
preseason
barnstorming
games
out here.
Yeah.
Hello, Peoria.
Like the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
We were also playing preseason games, like kind of home games in Mississippi, but that was because we had Justin Mapp too. So I like the idea.
A lot going on there. A lot going on. It was a good night in Montclair.
So
Big win
Chicago
for the Red
travels
Bulls.
for two players. They travel for Cuauhtémoc Blanco and Justin.
He's looking around the locker room like, where else could we go?
Dude, both legends, two of my favorites.
Yeah, go plant the flag in the ground in Jackson, or I don't know where you guys were, but
Jackson, definitely.
Jackson.
Jacktown. We went every year. Yeah. I know Jackson well.
The movement.
Is it on the Wikipedia page?
Jackson? It is on the movement. It is on the Wikipedia page.
Anders is hurrying us along, but we're just having too much fun here. Red Bulls won 1-0 against DC United. It was Troy Lesesne's first match in charge. So some highlights from this one from a fan perspective. First of all, it was just awesome to be in a stadium watching 90-ish minutes, as many as I could get in, with Cameron being very distracted by literally everything that he could be distracted by. So Troy Lesesne dresses the part. I mean, he had the full tailored suit going on, gets the W.
Socks?
Was a long way away, but it was chilly, so I assume so.
Okay.
Hurtado Island.
Yeah.
That is true, Anders. Cue Anders here.
This is football heritage.
Yeah. Is peak Eric Hurtado moments here. Just
Got signed
truly on an
ago.
island for the first half. They're just hitting long balls at him. He's fighting for second balls, getting yellow card fouls on Omir Fernandez. Great goal from him. Good assist from Tom Barlow. It's Tom Barlow's first
Omir
assist.
was home.
I mean, it
MSU
seems like
was home for him.
There were multiple children screaming at him. Speaking of being close to the players, anytime he came close to that stand side, multiple kids running off the stands yelling, "Omir, give me your jersey. Let me have your jersey." So he had some
Bronx
decisions
native
to be made afterwards. The other side of the fan interaction part is Tom Barlow had a tap in just on the edge of the 6, and he not only missed it, but missed the ball. And there are all those people in Montclair at MSU Soccer Park up in the stadium structure or the parking structure, because it's over the Red Hawk parking lounge, because it's overlooking. It's a great top-down view. And as soon as he missed it, I mean, the abuse just started flying. And he can hear every single word. And they're quoting his resume to him. They're like, 12 goals in 100 games, Tom. It's not good enough. And I'm editing some of the other expletives, but that's the intimacy that I guess you're looking for. But yeah, no, it was a great night. It was wonderful to be there. That was my highlight of the Open Cup, of which there were many, because I came home and just straight mainlined YouTube, and it got pretty weird. Pretty weird in Minnesota. It got a little strange in Sacramento. I mean, all over. It got definitely weird in Monterey, Dave.
Yeah, it was epic. We, I think, have talked about Simon Dawkins and Frank Yallop a couple times already on this show. Frank Yallop's in charge of Monterey Bay in USL Championship, which is like the 5th iteration of whatever club exists in that area. And Simon Dawkins, former DP, designated player in Major League Soccer. I think so. On loan and then full time.
I think it was on the return.
San Jose. Yeah.
The return was
under
DP
Frank Yallop
return.
like 9 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. Because it may have been the I think he joined Alan Gordon and Steven Leonard and those guys. He came off the bench to score in the 90th minute to equalize against LAFC's kids, which I was also stoked about it. Someone tweeted at me, so thank you. I was like yelling that LAFC doesn't play young players, and then because of CCL, they played all of their young players at the same time. Christian Torres scored. I love Eric Duenas. He got a start in this one. And I think everyone was young, and then the goalkeeper is 38, 30.
Oh yeah. He hadn't played like hardly at all in EPL for the last couple of years.
And then in the end, I believe it was 2-1 Monterey. LAFC scored late and then won in penalty kicks. So I would like to have seen Monterey go on, but LAFC has the quad still. The what's 5 or 6? The Hex.
How many they could win?
So they could win CCL, Supporter Shield, Leagues Cup, Open Cup, MLS Cup.
5.
That's 5. And I don't think they're
Campeones Cup?
I don't think there is a Campeones Cup.
I think RIP.
Is there any other competition? Nothing.
No, I think 5. That's a pretty, that's enough fronts.
Yeah. They do get a trophy for winning the conference finals if they were to go to MLS Cup.
What about MLS Next Fest?
MLS Next Flex.
Yeah.
They're probably already pre-qualified in
I went to MLS Next
Cup.
Fest. That's why I got confused.
Okay.
In Coachella, by the way. Great tournament.
So let's just reestablish. I'm going to Boyd's, Maryland to work, and Kaylin wandered around in Coachella at Palm Springs.
That's a true
Scouting.
U.S. Open Cup experience, Dave. Like if you claim to be among of representing the people,
true,
you go to Germantown or Boyd's or whatever we want to call it. What was your moment, Kaylin, from U.S. Open Cup and Canadian Championship? And fear not, I have a second and third place moment.
I'm sure there'll be a list. I do want to. I remember last time we talked about Monterey Bay, I was confused because I thought I saw Joe Cannon on the sideline, and I watched this one. Joe Cannon is the goalkeeper coach.
Nice.
Ramiro Corrales also assistant coach.
No way.
Assistant coach. Yep.
That's a squad.
We're getting the boys back together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I love the idea. Open Cup, the iconic team from my childhood was the San Francisco Bay Seals that went through. I think they beat Kansas City Wizards, whatever they were at the time.
Iconic bygone era of wonderful names.
The best. But they also beat San Jose. I think they beat Colorado. Like they went to the semifinal. So I was kind of hoping in a way Monterey Bay could make a run, taking down San Jose last week. And with all the connections, and then going against LAFC, but LAFC got it done. My favorite moment was the, maybe not favorite, but one that caught my attention was the Revs losing to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Yes, the lone cup set. We're perilously short of cup set potential. Well, there's just not a lot of opportunities left. Pittsburgh's on Tuesday night. Pittsburgh's the only USL team through. Sorry, apologies to the Battery who lost on. I'll just throw out my third place best moment here. The most epic own goal ever for Charleston. A dude like kicked a ball full speed off another dude's face, perfect header. It looked painful. It was
that Charleston team is like a big soccer legendary squad. Like Dante Pavaria is on that team. Fidel Barajas, like a lot of young dudes who everyone's like, this guy's the man, but has never played. It's a squad.
Anyway, they gave Inter Miami a chance at a shootout. So the Battery didn't go through.
It's like, who are you talking about?
He's like,
no, Anders is in my ear being like, they beat the Sounders. The Seals.
The Seals.
Yeah, we're going back on that.
Anders is like, you guys got to speed it up. And then in the middle of the show, we'll just be having ongoing conversations.
This was 1997. Did you ever talk to Dom Kinnear about the Seals?
No, but they let me sit on the bench when I was a kid. I used to train with them when I was
playing?
Like 13. No, he was on, I think, the Blackhawks at the time. It was another team.
A different San Francisco. Oh, the team that Winalda and Kinnear played for wasn't the Seals?
No.
Oh, I thought that was
team
their
did
team.
have good. They had CJ Brown, young CJ Brown, just out of college. They had Marquise White, who I think is still involved with San Jose. They had a bunch of good top players. Yeah. It was a squad.
Well, we're teaching you things in this show. I'm telling you right now.
Well, it's football heritage.
Yeah. The only 3 cup set possibilities left, and we're taping this on Wednesday. You are listening on Thursday, so will know.
Let's each pick one that happened.
So for the record, I don't call them cup sets. I call them just getting railhawked.
just
chopped.
You're just getting railhawked. I've been railhawked. Yeah. I know what that feels like.
Okay, look,
tough.
There's 3 games. We'll choose the ones we think. So there's Loudon Crew, Austin, New Mexico, and then, well, I guess this doesn't count, but they'd have an opportunity. It's Birmingham and Memphis. So that we have guaranteed 2 USL championship teams to get through.
This is one of the problems, right? You should not have 2 USL championship teams playing each other in this round.
There should be potential big time, eyeball grabbing upsets at all times.
Memphis has been
the reason why we're bringing up getting railhawked here is because Bruce Arena loses to Bob Lilly and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Bob Lilly, the legend.
Shout out,
but Bob Lilly is only the second coach of a lower division team to knock Bruce Arena-led MLS teams out of the Open Cup after Colin Clark, who did it 3 times with the Carolina Railhawks. So many times that Bruce Arena was like, I'm not even going to go to Carolina for this match. Like,
no, he did skip.
I don't care what happens. I won't be there to witness it. Like,
it's better not to show up. Honestly, he had the right move. You don't want to get railhawked. That's not a good experience.
How many railhawkings were you a part of?
I think 2. I definitely remember
just taking scalps.
Yeah, I definitely remember one. I think with Cuauhtemoc Blanco and Juan Carlos Osorio. I think we got railhawked in North Carolina. That was
what
tough.
kind of the legends that have been railhawked? You have Qua.
Yep.
Obviously,
I'm pretty sure Robbie Keane landed.
Yeah, I mean, well, the question is, were they playing in those games?
Speaking of Maryland, Qua is banned still from Open Cup.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He has like a 10-match ban from pushing a referee.
When you work an Open Cup game, they give you the pamphlet.
Yeah,
and Clint Dempsey, I think, just finished his suspension. Anders is saying he's still suspended.
He can still play in the $1 million league.
Yeah, which is in Gary, North Carolina.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go to that. You get real hawks. There's too much money on the line.
Kalen just enters the state of North Carolina. He just gets rail hawked randomly.
The U.S. Open Cup stakes were a little lower as far as prize money is concerned.
I got an Open Cup ring.
Have we talked about Bob Lilly on the show before?
We haven't.
Okay, so Bob Lilly's coach of the Riverhounds, won USL championship or USL title, I believe, with the Montreal Impact back in the day.
Yeah, he's an Impact legend.
With Rochester.
Probably Eddie Sabrango years, if I'm...
Yeah. With
maybe
Rochester.
Ali Gerba, you think?
Ali Gerba's a legend.
Yeah.
I don't know if he won one with Vancouver as well. He coached the Hershey Wildcats back in the day, but he is unarguably a Hall of Famer. He's one of the most successful lower division coaches. He, and I think many people around him, thought he would be an MLS coach one day. He churns out quality teams after quality teams. He won the championship in Rochester, went down to Pittsburgh afterwards, and every year they're a contender, and he puts together really good teams, even when he loses talent. And so it's cool to see him get that opportunity. I've worked many of his games. His memory is, you think what we're saying is ridiculous? He'll bring up some backup forward from Charleston 13 years ago when you're like, oh, tell me about this player. What's he like? He's like, oh, do you remember? And he says a name and you're like, yeah, kind of. He's like, starts comparing him. You're like, that's what you went with? It's great. I love him. So he's a Pennsylvania legend. He's a U.S. soccer legend. And now he railhawked.
By the way, the Revs played Blessing, Vrioni, Altidore, Panayotu, Renix, Makun. Like they played.
Yeah, it wasn't a throwaway team.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full string team, but it definitely wasn't like we don't want to win this game sort of team. Congratulations to the Railhawks. They're on. We don't know who they're going to play next. The draw is coming up. Of course, we had to get through Wednesday night games, and then we'll get the draw for.
Did you say the Railhawks?
What did I say? Sorry.
Congratulations to the Railhawks for their time.
Just historic. I don't even think they exist anymore. That's been implanted in my mind now. Anybody, I just fill it right in. The Riverhounds will be in the draw, and we will see who gets there from Wednesday night. Minnesota United will be in the draw. That was my second place U.S. Open Cup moment. Bongi Hungwane with a epic turn off the bench. Just out here just banging goals, back heels, providing assists. I think he had the double in this one plus an assist to really fuel Minnesota, but it was back and forth. The Union bring on Kai Wagner, and his sub experience was somehow even stranger. Kai Wagner scores the game-tying goal at the very, 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 very end of regulation. A nice volley into the ground, and he goes crazy. This is after he had booped Michael Boxall in the head with a ball and started a fight. Rolled, Michael Boxall comes sliding, and Kai Wagner looks at him and just slow rolls the ball into his head. It was just a really good troll moment. And then he scores a free kick to tie it in extra time, but then he misses the PK in the shootout for them to lose.
Yeah, so Philly has now lost back-to-back shootouts, going back to MLS Cup last year, which is not
tough high leverage moments for them have not come out on their
and
side
not what
recently.
you'd expect for a team with Andre Blake.
Yeah. Should we save the Canadian Classique for Rivalry Week?
Yeah, we got a second one coming up.
Yeah, I mean...
It's one every 4 days.
Yeah, pressure mounting on Toronto. Montreal with a 2-1 win in Toronto to knock the Reds out of the Canadian Championship. Last year, I don't think it was Montreal that knocked them out, but that was a huge disappointment because it meant no CCL for the Italians and this star-studded team. But yeah, there was drama here. I mean, whether it was folks in the stands or Mark-Anthony Kaye happened to be kind of dragged away from the supporters.
Last year, they lost in the final in Vancouver.
Yeah.
That was Bernadeschi and Insigne's second ever game.
Yep. All right, let's dive into it. And let's start with Orlando City.
I feel like we've already dove into it, by the way, so I just want that out there.
Okay. Orlando City, they lose, as we said, in the Open Cup, and they've been very Jekyll and Hyde as of late. In the league, it's win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. I think that's sort of the pattern for them so far. We had a bunch of folks hitting us up last week saying, you've got to dive into Orlando, cut the chaotic banter, and we've given you 25 minutes of that before we give you what you want. Danny Phillips says, help the Orlando fan base understand what's happening with our results. Our echo chamber has developed a severe case of multiple personality disorder. And Zilly says, please don't talk about Orlando City. He's reversed his course if he was ever on the other one. And then Derek kind of sums it up with, love how this fan base thinks we're special. We're not. And any time about the club is unwarranted. So that was a strong take there from Derek. It has been a little bit strange for Orlando. They started the season in CCL and I thought showed really well against Tigres. A couple bounces and this whole season might be looked at just a little bit different. They might be in the midst of a historic CCL run, but that's not the case. So we sort of wrote off the beginning a little bit for them, but it wasn't a tough start. It was unbeaten through the first three in MLS play. A win against the Red Bulls at home. They drew Cincinnati at home, which we've seen how good Cincinnati has been. And then they drew at DC, and then that started the loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And you can add another L there too because of the Open Cup pattern here. What's going on, Dave, with Orlando? Is this unexpected? We've got a bunch of people in our mentions saying the pressure's on Oscar Pareja. Should he be the head coach of Orlando City, etc.? Like, there are expectations that the fan base had, and I think that probably that we had as well, and you can point straight at me and the old who won the offseason bit if you'd like now.
No,
that would be a good time. Yeah, that would be a good time.
No, I would just point at the banner that they put up at Exploria, right?
And that does make expectations tough when every time you come in the
Open
building.
Cup champions, 2023 off-season winners.
Yeah.
Andrew Reeby, Tom Bogert
raises the
Athletics. Tom Bogert. The Athletics, Tom Bogert. Yeah, so that's basically
what's going on. Is this people are making it seem truly dire? Orlando City are above the line. We have talked about what being above the line means in Major League Soccer this year. It means you're ninth. That's where Orlando City are. 14 points. There are 4 teams in the East that are tied on 14 points. If we're going to sit here and say, for instance, hey, we've liked what Columbus have done this season, well, they're on 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia on 14 points. DC on 14. New York City just a point ahead on 15. And Orlando has only played 10 games. All 5 of the top teams in the conference have played 11. So if Orlando was to win that quote-unquote game in hand, they would just be a point back of Atlanta and Nashville in 3rd and 4th. So why is it that it feels so dire depending on who you talk to?
Because this has been the story now for 3 years. And I think in the context of this conversation, you have to bring up Oscar Pareja took over an Orlando City team that had never made the playoffs before. And they've proceeded to win their first ever trophy in the club's history. They went to the MLS's back final as well. And then they've been a contender in the playoffs over the last 2 years, including winning a home playoff game against NYCFC. So what's happened, I think, for Orlando over the last few years is the expectations have raised. Nothing has changed over the time since, let's say, that NYCFC playoff victory, which is the story you just told. Win-loss, win-loss, up-down, up-down, inconsistencies in their performance. There's a couple different ways you can sort of zero in on it. I see a lack of balance in a team, which is they're not capable of playing both ways in the same game for large stretches. So they can sit deep and defend, and then they struggle to create chances, which keeps them in games. Or they can open up and attack and create goals, but then they cannot defend. And the idea was that they had gone out and brought in players like Martin Ojeda, like Erkan Kara, like Facundo Torres, like
Ramiro Enrique would be one of them. I think Gaston Gonzalez as well last year, who's just now sort of returning to health.
Where the quality of those players takes you from where you were, which is a borderline playoff team, into this we are a top contender conversation. We're going to host games. We decide the way games are played out. We're consistent from performance to performance, and that hasn't happened. So I think that's where the frustration comes in for their fans is we thought we were taking a step forward, and we're seeing the same thing. So is it not enough time? Is it poorly spent and poorly ID'd players? Is it lack of quality integration? Like what has gone wrong there because you have made the attempt to be better than you were. So to be the same means something hasn't worked.
I would say I don't take issue with anything you say. The only thing I would take issue is the expectations line. I feel like the expectations have always been outsized for Orlando. I feel like coming in with Kaká, having that stadium, the fan base, fill the bowl, all that. Like the expectations. And I think also the fact they both came in at the same time as New York City, and I think they were both kind of had these expectations of, becoming big clubs in MLS. And for a long time, as you mentioned, it didn't live up to those expectations for Orlando. A lot of turnover, didn't end up kind of living up to those expectations. And I think finally you start to see, I think, from my perspective, Pareja has built a solid foundation of a team that's difficult to play against. It's going to be competitive.
That will make the playoffs.
And in playoff circumstances, I would say that's a team we saw even in CCL this year going against Tigres. Like they gave them a real good match to didn't end up getting it through. But I came away really impressed this season from that. And we've seen, I think that threw off their track a little bit to start the season. But I still think like some of the pieces also that they brought in, I know everyone was excited about them, but from my perspective, it's different when a team on paper than how it actually looks on the pitch. And it might make sense, but when I watch this team, a lot of the pieces like to occupy the same spaces. So you see Enrique, he drops a little bit more underneath, which then goes into the space of Torres, and Ojeda comes in from those middle areas and just seems all very narrow at times. And they're all kind of, when it hits sometimes, the combination play can look good. But they're not a lot of different pieces. Duncan McGuire is the one piece that I think changes that because he does like to be a little bit more direct. He can go into the channels. So I think in some ways the construction has kind of like crowded the space for the team, but they're still difficult to play against. Defensively, they're going to be there. Good goalkeeping. Like they have the pieces, I think, to do what they're doing, which is like be in tight games, get on the right side of things at times, a good mentality. But I don't know if it's, especially when you go out and you sign like 21-year-old players, 23-year-old players, I think sometimes it takes even more. People expect, okay, you're from Argentina, you're 23, like we're going to see the fully realized version of you. And that's kind of rare in MLS. I think it takes a little bit longer than that.
I think people expect it. And this is me just reading between the lines. And Orlando fans, if I'm not reading what you're putting down correctly, please let me know. the David Goss bump on Facundo Torres. He has a 10-10 season basically last year. Helps push them to an Open Cup win.
I like how you were the one high on this whole team, and now my name's going to get dragged through the mud on this. I'm the one wearing.
I'm literally wearing a Facundo Torres
jersey. You've said people a lot to start this moment, look, and I know you're talking about
the proverbial eye. Okay, the proverbial eye. I think that there was an expectation that like Facundo Torres was going to make a leap this year. That they had learned how best to utilize him last year, and that he had settled into the league, gone to the World Cup with Uruguay, even though he didn't play a ton of minutes, and that he was going to make this big jump that landed him in sort of that upper echelon of attacking players in Major League Soccer, and that Ojeda was going to be a capable and productive sort of second option to him, and all the gravity from Torres was going to benefit, Ojeda at this level, and Ercankara, maybe it would be him, or maybe Ramiro Enrique, or I don't think anybody other than Doyle was thinking, Duncan McGuire necessarily, given the amount of money
maybe
they spend other places. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But that you were going to have this sort of like fluid, dynamic attack, and that's not what you have. To your point about sort of the spaces that are globbed up, and to your point about Oscar's foundation as well, I think he's always shown us that he can build a foundation in Major League Soccer defensively, structurally, buy-in from players,
culturally,
that gives you an opportunity to win games.
I like Araujo in that center midfield position.
Yeah, but the question is, how do you build off that foundation? Like, I think Orlando fans are coming to the stadium and they're like, look at all the money we've spent. The Wilfs have come into this new ownership group. We've been sold on this bigger vision, and we're not seeing it. We had this imagination of what it could be, and right now reality is not matching our imagination. And when that happens, it's tough. And then they've got a loss at home to Charlotte. They've got a loss at home to Nashville. They got a loss at home to DC. Like, the only home wins that they have are against sort of a hapless LA team, and that's nice. And then the Red Bulls to start the season at 1-0. But if you look at this team,
what a penalty kick.
Yeah, they've got 3 games where they've scored 2 goals.
And
3 games they've not scored more than 2 goals. So I think there's a disconnect here of what they hoped for and what they're getting.
Yeah, and entertainment.
Yes, correct.
Like going to the stadium and enjoying watching the team play. And I think there are a lot of fans, and I'm one of them, who the battle, the fight, right? That is entertaining, and you're engaged in that. Like, you can feel that this is not a team that goes out and lays down ever, but you want to be entertained. And Philly does it one way. It's direct, whatever, but they score 4 goals a lot. And like, their fans are entertained. LAFC does it a different way. I think Vancouver's done it this year in a unique way. Austin did it last year in a unique way. There's not one way to entertain, but I don't think Orlando fans feel that way right now.
And it's reductive, but if we're talking about entertainment, I just went in and I dug through all of sort of the deep line data, because I was like, okay, I want to know if sort of this eye test and this...
They don't create chances.
Correct. And this impression that I have of Orlando City is accurate just on numbers. And, they're bottom 5 in basically every metric you would look at that is sort of out of that, like, attacking, entertaining. Are they going to score goals? Are they going to create chances that make you stand up in your seat and gasp and think that could be a goal? Whether it's expected goals from open play, whether it's, just shots, whether it's expected goals per shot. So we're measuring quality of the shots that you're getting. It's just not there.
And they have a lot of the ball, which is a lot in their half, and a lot when you look at the team right now between Cartagena and Araujo, who are, neither of them are creative players. Neither of them are really looking upfield that often. Neither of them are really breaking lines. They have a lot of the ball in their own third. And when you look at Montreal this weekend, I thought Orlando had no intent to score. You could argue the Herrera goal, it's off a post. I think it's a cross into a shot off the post and then a deflected shot. But if you're playing in your defensive third, mistakes and deflections become goals against you. And then the game was against them, and they're on the road, and then Montreal scores the second, and it's over. But that wasn't really an Orlando team that seemed to play with an intent to win. And I think that's what you come back to a lot with this group. And it's fair, I think, for Oscar Pareja and Luis Muzi and that group to say, this is who we were last year, and bringing in these guys in the same system but higher quality will improve our team. But if those guys can't perform at that level, then
I know what Oscar would
really
say,
a lot to go back to.
I know what he would say. He would say these things take time to build. Let us build it. And then I would also then go look back at the lineups from the last 6 games, and I would sort of pose this question for you, Kalen, about how you build that understanding and rhythm within a team. And if you go back and look at these lineups, it's just, whether it be for injury's sake or personnel choices, it's just a lot of chopping and changing. Up top, where is Pereira playing? Is he on the field? Okay, if he's not, is it two defensive midfielders? Who's on the wing? Is it Angulo or is it Torres or is it Ojeda? Is Ojeda central or is he out wide? Like between Maguire and Enrique and Cara, they're just rotating up top.
Point, you said like they figured out how to use Facundo Torres. It'd get better. They used them on the right last year coming inside. That's what they hit on. That's where they're using Ojeda right now because that's where he looks most comfortable.
And the big difference for me then, it's actually fine if you have players like that are going to tuck in, but then you need width from somewhere.
They gave up Juan.
And they don't have, if you think about them in the past, it was Moutinho, Juan on one side, bombing forward, even Cashmuller, Nani, like the players that they've had, Benji Michel, like none of those players exist anymore. So then it's Gaston Gonzalez,
but he's just coming back.
Right,
from that.
He's been injured.
Kyle Smith, Michael Halliday,
but that doesn't provide the same attacking threat that they've had in the past. So it's actually fine if you have Ojeda and Torres and they're going to tuck inside, but then you need somebody coming around the outside that's going to really provide some threat. And I think that's been the one place where it's saying, okay, maybe you could actually open up space, because that was the best versions of these Orlando teams in the past, is they would change the point of attack through Pereira, would just start spraying balls wide, and then you get isolated one-on-one, and then, the winger comes in from the backside to add into the box, but it just hasn't been there. And then I think that focal point of the 9 position, it's just, that's been a problem spot. I don't think Cara is the answer. I think we've seen that by now. And then I think Maguire's to take Doyle's place. His chair is empty today, but to take his place, I think he's their best option. It's just a matter of, would they need to change the way they play a little bit, and how would they then get service to him? Because I think he creates the most problems, and if you're going to play defensive, maybe you have somebody with a little bit more of a physical presence up there could really help. But I don't know. Yeah, it's not. It hasn't quite made sense with the pieces right now.
It's frustrating because it's not bad, but it's not good. And
so it's interesting actually, because you brought up their emergence into the league alongside NYCFC in 2015, which I hadn't really thought back to in a while, and obviously great success in USL. So coming into that, they were a winner, right? They packed the stadium, Dom Dwyer, hat trick, 4 goals, whatever in a final. They were a winner, but they come in, and I think it's fair to say, if you're an Orlando fan, you've watched Atlanta, right? That's somewhat of a regional rival, and they've won MLS Cups, and they've built great teams. You watch LAFC come into the league, they win MLS Cup. Nashville, maybe you don't compare yourself poorly to them, but they have an MVP winner in their team, which is a higher quality piece than anything Orlando's had. Charlotte more recent, and some of the other ones more recent. But I think it's fair for Orlando fans to say, like, we've been consistent. I think they've been one of the best home atmospheres every year, no matter what the standings say, no matter what their points are, whether it's James O'Connor wearing the largest hat on the planet on the sideline, or Jason Kreis or Oscar Pereira. Like, their fans have been there, and they've watched some other teams pop up around them. And whether it's quality on the field or ambition off the field, like Gonzalo Higuain, as poorly as some of that went, their in-state rival signed a player of that quality in the last 3 years, and they have not. And so I think it's fair for Orlando fans to be frustrated.
But they have spent.
Yes.
But they have spent. And that's
more
where part
recent,
of that. Right. Yes. But that's part of where the frustration comes, right? Is like, you see Martin Ojeda, you see Facundo Torres, Erkan Kara to a lesser degree, certainly. You see a center back tandem that you say should be among the best in Major League Soccer. You see all these building blocks, and you wonder why the building blocks that are there don't amount to something just a little bit. Maybe it's more entertaining. Maybe it's more successful. It's probably a mix up of both of those things.
And I think for context, I think this is a conversation Red Bull fans are having right now, and we're having about the Red Bulls, and their season has started worse, but they let their coach go, right? And that's sort of the atmosphere of, like, Orlando's qualified for the playoffs. They won Open Cup. Like, they've been in things, but you thought you were going to build up, and they have not moved in that direction. I think that's what Red Bull fans have thought over the last 7 years of, like, yeah, last year was good. How are we going to get better next year? And it's like, nah, we actually think we can maintain performance with what we have. Well, that's not really the trajectory fans are looking for from their team. And I think that's a fair complaint to have. And Orlando, I would say there are better days ahead, but you also have to look at it and say, like, Oscar Pereira has been a coach in this league for 12 years, off and on as a head coach. He's had success everywhere he's gone to an extent. Outside of one magical year from Mauro Diaz, he hasn't really been a trophy winner. Is that going to change with this group? Like, is this the squad? And so that's, I think, where we start to hear those rumors of like, I would have Oscar Pereira coach my team if I was making that decision. And if I was Orlando, I wouldn't touch anything mid-season with what's going on right now.
No chance.
But that's where the fans look at it and say, well, why will it get better?
But they did win a trophy. They won the Open Cup last year. And then I go back to, CCL, which I thought was a big litmus test for them. And I think they passed it. I think it was, I thought they overperformed based on the new pieces they brought in to be able to withstand a home and away leg against Tigres. I was really impressed by it.
I agree with you. But it occurs to me that if you're an Orlando fan, one, you're disappointed by that. You're sort of thrilled, but disappointed. And two, maybe you're thinking in terms of like, maybe we're at our best when the other team is dictating things.
Which is not what you spent.
Which is not what you and maybe it was, and you were like, we're gonna just kill people on the counter, etc. Which
Right.
Okay, if that's what you're gonna do, kill people. But maybe to go back to like the imagination side of it for fans and the hope side, it's like they're just not feeling it match, and that's where all of a sudden you get friction and frustration. I don't know. Hopefully we did this conversation justice.
I don't think we did because I think it's confusing. Like It is hard to put your finger exactly on. You touched on some of the stats. I kind of cruised through some other stats as well of like, there are numbers that don't make sense where they're like high completion percentage. They don't create chances. They do dominate some games in areas. They don't dominate other games in the exact same areas. The opponents are similar.
There's some it's some bad fortune here too. Like they may not be scoring a ton, but they're not giving up very much. So then the margins are very short. If you go look at their losses, like opponents are overperforming their XG when they lose. And like that kind of makes sense. Like, okay, you lost.
Yeah.
What happened here? Well, they had a great shot. They had this wonderful moment. I think Orlando City fans are just like, we want those moments.
Yeah. And I think the fans are also split from what we've experienced online. I have not been there this year yet, but I was there for decision day last year. And like, I think there was a good feeling coming out of that. And fans, I think, are split whether that good feeling has continued or not.
Talk about split. Huh. Look where they are on the table, right in the middle. That's kind of where they're at.
It's win, loss, win, loss, win, loss.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing for me right now is like, it would be nice if they could settle on some sort of 11, some sort of approach, some sort of group that can build chemistry, in particular in the final third. It's just been chop change, and the results sort of reflect that.
They
All right,
they want to look
Crew,
like
by the
Inter
way.
Milan in the attack. Effective. That's for you, Thomas.
At Crew this weekend. So we'll see what they can do with that one. They've been pretty good on the road. I guess they've been pretty good sort of across the board. That's the deal. All right, let's get into rivalry week. And we'll start with Montreal and Toronto FC. Montreal hosting this one at Stade Saputo. Midweek, they were in at BMO Field. It was a strange one. Montreal wins this match.
What are you so
Were you at this one?
Me?
Yeah.
In spirit, maybe.
Yeah. I'm always around.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always hanging out.
Is Dave here? I can sort of feel an aura.
I haven't been in the 6 in a while.
Yeah. It was interesting. There were, let's just say there was conflict on a lot of fronts, whether it's between the fans or whether it's between Marc-Anthony Kaye and the supporters. You might have seen a video of a megaphone being chucked on the field, which is just entirely insane and inappropriate and wrong. You can be upset about results. You can be upset about the game. You can be a lot of things, and all of that's justifiable, but just don't throw things on the field. It's just a very clear and obvious point, but I just continue to make it. But here we are, Montreal. 5 wins in 5 matches. Who would have thought?
No one could have seen it
Who
coming.
could have? I mean, mind
5-6
blown.
games into the year, they'd only played one true home game. No one mentioned that on this show. No one stuck with it. Everyone just, folded.
Even people that picked them in preseason had opportunity aplenty to say those things.
And didn't
Until they started winning.
Absolutely
That seems convenient.
ridiculous. Yeah, it does.
Seems quite convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue?
No. What do you see from Montreal of late, Kaylin? You got any thoughts there?
Well, I was more covering them in the dark times, in the times that were going the wrong direction. But I think one piece of it that they were struggling with was getting people healthy. They had a bunch of injuries. Kyoto was out. They had others missing. And then I think on top of it, Talked about time, talked about system, the transition from Wilfred Nancy to then trying to go towards a new direction. And I think, part of it is they brought in some new pieces. I think
your time was before Bryce.
Yeah, it's the pre-Bryce Duke era.
Yeah.
But he's been really good. I mean, he's been really good at contributing goals and assists. I think he fits that system well too. He's a versatile player. He's a guy I've liked from his LAFC days, and then I really liked him in Miami. It just kind of found himself in a position where he was never gonna really get enough
Wasn't
run
he
of
a
games.
buy-in? They weren't going to be bought into Bryce.
The position he plays is a position that you're going to often find a Pozuelo, Pizarro, pick whoever else you want. And so I think in some ways this move to Montreal has really helped him.
Yeah, he fits really cleanly. It's less Georgie at his peak, which was like, I can create chances by myself if you can just create space. And that's where we saw Georgie at his peak, I think, last year, especially in that left channel, was like Kyoto was playing quote unquote wide or Lapalainen. And it was like, just clear out space and Georgie will beat anyone 1v1 and then create. Bryce Duke is more of a connector, but I think you have other players. And I've always talked about Matthew Chouanier in that way because I love his game.
Yeah, he's really leveling up.
And Wanyama, I think, is similar, where there are guys there for him to connect with. Quick passing, quick movement, interchange. And so for Bryce Duke, rather than having to beat three guys, it's one, give and goes all around the field. And then linking up with players. I was excited about the addition of 04 last year. I thought that was, a forward-thinking move of like, we know we're going to lose some level of talent in the attack. We think he can be a replacement for some of these guys. And I think he's been really good at just maintaining center backs, being around the game when he has to. But Kyoto is key for them. And that's a little worrying. He hasn't been healthy consistently over the last few years. And last year, it just felt like fatigue, which that's not something you get over. Like if it literally was just he can't play a full season at this level, that's not going to change. But the big part for them here is the defensive solidity coming back. That was what they built everything off of last year. It allowed Nancy to throw numbers forward. It allowed Kamal Miller to play as like a false center back and be attacking. It's I think allowed now with Waterman returning, allowed Aaron Herrera to do what we thought he could do. Goal and an assist last week. Be aggressive. Get inside sometimes. Overlap and create space for this team. So I think, as Kalen said, a lot of the pieces coming back have worked. I also think Losada has, like he did with DC, I think he's turned it down a little. They are not all out pressing. Like what you've seen over the last few weeks, especially in the home games, is a level of possession and moving the lineup gradually and not just attacking and sort of playing with your hair on fire. And so I think there's a level of comfort right now because they're playing more similar to Nancy than maybe we thought it would end up being under Losada.
I think Bryce Duke recognizes those moments well too. And that's where I start to think, they knew what they were getting and why they were getting him, in the sense of when to be direct, whether it's with his own run, which I think he does well, or with a direct ball to a runner in a channel. And then he's very good at following that ball and understanding where to go. But those are the moments for Losada that matter. Like when you hear him talk about how he wants to play, when you hear sort of the on the training ground sort of commentary from him, it's like knowing very quickly how to see a moment where there's a gap, where there's an opportunity, whether it's a turn in midfield and go, how to read the players around you. A note from this match, Champ, Rudy Camacho playing defensive mid. That was not something that I saw coming, but it worked quite well for this team.
They've
gotten good goalkeeper play from the homegrown.
Yeah.
Sirois.
They traded Kamal Miller. They still have 4, maybe 5 center backs if you include the Icelandic Youth International. TFC had Rosted come off hurt in this game. They've got 0 center backs.
But you certainly wouldn't trade one of them if you were.
No, not at all. Amy Mbika, I guess that's your one. But like,
so, yeah.
My understanding is I was not watching. Mark Anthony Kaye finished the game at center back. Could have been part of the frustration that happened. This was the fear for TFC, was they built a team on wide attacking players, which is great, but that's not foundational to the way the flow of the game works. And they went veteran but old at center back, and fairly veteran but also old in central midfield with not a lot of depth. And you're seeing it play out right now. And they've gotten some performances out of the kids. Like they've gotten performances I think they didn't even expect out of some of their younger players. they don't have the spine that they put together to win. And you're seeing it play out week in and week out. And in this game, it just felt like Bernadeschi and Insigne, people are gonna load up on them outside. And there's no one inside. If Osorio's not healthy, there's no one inside that can beat you. You don't have Michael Bradley to dictate tempo. Marc-Anthony Kaye is not the same player that can break lines on the dribble and create danger himself. And so you can close out Bernadeschi and Insigne and keep this team off the scoreboard.
I mean, the highlight right now is really it's Richie Larea. I mean, even Bernadeschi.
Everything he does is underlap because everyone's tracking Bernadeschi.
Yeah, I mean, Bernadeschi's been pretty quiet. Insigne's had a couple moments since he's been back. But this is, I mean, to go back to sort of imagination, the conversation, or imagination versus reality. It's not matching up right now, and it just seems like there's sort of a powder keg of pressure in Toronto that just keeps kind of expanding.
Right. That lines up well for Montreal, though, because they don't have the same pressure expectations. I mean, one thing I'll say is, of Montreal's latest results, they've kind of had a weak schedule. It's New York, Red Bull.
Yeah, on the compliments we gave to Montreal, I think we're talking still like 5th or 6th, right?
5th or 6th, what?
In the East as like a good season. Like we're not talking
about... That would be an amazing season.
I was going to say like, whoo.
But we're not talking about what we were talking about last year, which was they had a shot at Supporters Shield. They had a shot at hosting MLS.
I mean, playoffs, right now I'd be surprised if this playoff team.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ho-ho.
Definitely.
I agree with
Kalen.
I agree with Kalen on that, and it goes back to I'm as invested in Romel Kyoto succeeding this year as anybody outside of Montreal
because you have him on your team.
Yeah, it's been a great resurgence for me, but I that is a problematic thing to say if you're like, oh man, if Romel's not on the field,
you locked in on like injury.
He's my guy. Yeah, Romel's
not just him. I think we went through your whole roster the other day.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
we're surviving though.
But this weekend,
survive and thrive.
It's hard to beat somebody back to back like that. But I do think it's playing well in their hands in the sense that all of the pressure and the stress and the expectations are on Toronto, and it only gets heightened against your rival. And we've seen this rivalry. I mean, for me, this is like this has been one of my favorite ones over the years. No, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, you're
good.
With
all due respect, if you allow me.
We can share.
At Canada, we're a mosaic. So everyone is their own little piece and it all comes together.
I love that. Not a lot of love. It doesn't feel like a lot of love with the pieces coming
together. No, it feels like less between Montreal and Toronto.
Yeah, less between that
one. That's fair.
But yeah, I think the lack of expectations or the just even playing off the pressure that's on Toronto right now, it can really, and I think some of the youth and that kind of energy can help Montreal in a match like this.
Maybe we see Marshall Ruddy from the jump for Toronto. I know he was pretty good last night. By all reports, I was in beautiful Montclair, but got some inside information on that one. Let's keep it rolling on Rivalry Week. Hudson River Derby. Speaking of Golden Boot draftees that just aren't playing any games, Lewis Morgan's still out for New York Red Bulls.
And I'm still at the top of the Golden Boot.
Are you? Do we know that for sure?
I think I'm first.
We'll get an update next week.
We'll get an update next week. You just made that up.
I was first or second.
Luquinho's still out.
Last week when
Corey
I've
Burke.
got Hani Mukhtar. Are you kidding me?
Do you watch the shows when you're out?
I don't watch them. I listen to them.
Did you listen to all of them?
I did, but I'm doing things while I do it. So I'm not 100. Not 100. It's not like when I'm on them. It's not 100% recall.
So we did a phone call for discovery rights. Based off standings in reverse order. Was it Messi?
I somehow missed this one.
For anyone. And we did reverse order, and you can obviously claim players as you go along. You were last.
I wasn't allowed to.
You did not respond to the phone call.
I was not called.
Yeah. Well, no, the number is put out, and you did not log in.
It's like when you're in the super draft, and it's like the 4th round, and they're like, "Hey, fill in the blank team."
Bruce Arena. You didn't show up.
Just no.
So Doyle got your pick. So just so you guys know, we did go through this.
This is not right.
You got rail hawked.
Not right. This is collusion, and I will not.
But I was first place, I believe, at the time.
What did you think? Let's focus on NYCFC. We've talked a lot of Red Bulls. We gave even so much time on Monday. So what have you seen lately with NYCFC? By the way, Troy Lesane with an awesome opportunity here to beat not only the DC rival, but also the
in the same week, your
rival
first
in
week.
the same week. That's tight.
Well, the pressure will be on NYCFC for sure. We were just talking about how that dynamic can change things. But they've been two different teams, it seems like, home and away. And the big thing for me in that, I think, is just at home, they're able to dominate and control more of the ball. And on the road, that's been difficult for them to have that same kind of control. And there are times on the road where you have to find another solution. You have to find a different way of playing where you're maybe not going to have all of the ball, or a team is going to either take it from you or they're going to make it more difficult. And in those moments, there really hasn't been a plan B for NYCFC. I don't think they have, and I think it comes down to their options, personnel up front. And it's a lot of play through things, checking down, players that want to come to the ball, players that want the ball to feet, players that are drifting wide. It's just at times that can be, even at home, I've seen them do that where it actually can be really dynamic and they can interchange positions, and Santi can drop deep and somebody will look in behind, or Talis Magno will drift wide and then come in. You don't really know where they're going to show up. And I think because they're so good in the ball with that midfield three, they can really kind of ping it around and get you moving. But on the road, sometimes you have to be able to look in behind. Sometimes you have to have a little bit more of a direct option. Sometimes you have to use some pace. I mean, Gabby Pereira had the one where he gets in behind. That's basically one of the only guys that looks for that at times. And for me, this season, he hasn't been up to his standards. He's dropped continually deeper. He's looked frustrated. He has all the ability in the world, but I haven't seen so much of that consistency from him. And that kind of goes for a number of the attackers. Pellegrini's, for me, has been super consistent as far as his work rate, but hasn't quite turned that into goals and assists, getting on the end of things, but I think has been really important. Ledesma's been good. Maybe not, they've had to kind of find a spot for him. Santi Rodriguez has been consistent, but is being played out of position. Talis Magno is one of my favorite players in MLS to watch. He's just a joy to watch. It can do the most fun things ever on the ball, but is kind of not being allowed to really play his position and develop.
Maybe fitting that the best we saw of him was with a Tati or an Air up front.
And I would love to see him just play it out wide on the left and just be like, express yourself. Also, from this position, become a killer. Like, add that to your game, playing off this striker. And if you had somebody drawing people in behind, and then you had that, I think it would really open up space for him to play the way he wants to. So I think this, the tricky part for this one, I was saying home versus away. This one, is it away? It's away. I guess it's at Red Bull.
They play some home games at Red Bull.
They played there a lot.
There's a familiarity, right?
So I think
they kept a toothbrush there.
Yeah, that could help. But also playing, there's always this. What is it? Styles meets fights. I've heard Doyle say that before.
Don't point at me.
That's always going to be.
Don't point at me when you're talking about your brother. Don't do that.
Come on, I thought you guys. We got two Kalins.
Got the beard and
there's two Kalins. We can't have two.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But yeah, the style wise, I think is always a clash in this one. Of, are you going to play through it? Can you play out of it? Can you break through lines? And then from there, once you break through that press for Red Bull, like, where are you going from there? And I think at times NYCFC haven't had that, where it's like, all right, we've beaten the press. Now where do we find? I think they've actually, some of their better moments have come more from a Red Bull-esque style of play, where they've been actually really good at winning balls in the middle of midfield with Sands, with Parks, kind of in that spot.
Oh, and at home, that's always been a hallmark. Like, they just understand that compacted space better than others and take advantage.
So, yeah, but I mean, and then you also have to throw in the X factor of losing a coach, what that does for a team mentally. I think generally you feel a bounce comes from that. You get that kind of new energy, people fighting for positions, and this is a team that always plays with energy, and that's like their greatest strength. So you add to the fuel to that, and you could see, I think that makes them even more of a dangerous.
Is there, you've played in teams where a coach gets let go during the season?
Yeah.
Is there a divide in the locker room between those who are maybe glad it happened, or whatever word you want to use, and those who aren't, or does that just go away?
Or even uncertain, or like, oh man, I was getting opportunities before. Yeah. I sure hope I
would say the only time I've seen a divide is maybe with the young players being happy.
Yeah.
Because you're like, we're going to switch things up now. You're like, you're going to play some young guys. But I think most of the time it's generally met with like happiness.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Because it's stressful, right? It's stressful when that moment's
It's a release
coming.
valve at the very least. No matter how you felt, you might have liked him, whatever, but you're just like, okay, well, this issue that we've all been dealing with collectively is at least resolved.
Yes. And I think it can be a breath of fresh air of saying, you're going to hear somebody new, their voice, they're getting an opportunity. I might get an opportunity. things are up in the air right now, which I think for most players is a good thing. Even the ones that are playing regularly, you want to have that kind of. I think it can just change. It can change the vibe in a locker room. And for me, not to go too deep into it, because I know you guys went into Red Bull and the changes, whatever. But for me, it seemed like that locker room has been through a lot so far this season. For me, it seemed like a lack of leadership from Struber as far as how he handled all those situations. So, if you're talking about him leaving, I don't really actually have an issue with him. You guys went into the 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door. I don't actually have an issue with that. One of the most, I think like surprising, but maybe like really good moments that I had was having Juan Carlos Osorio in Chicago. He came to the locker room. One of the first things he said was, "I want to go to Europe and coach. You should all want to go to Europe and play." So I don't actually have an issue. But
as long as it's explicit, right? As long as like everybody understands the way this works, and like honestly, when I succeed, you succeed. When you succeed, I succeed. So let's succeed.
Yeah, and that's refreshing, honestly, because it wasn't really like that for the most part, and it was like, it didn't happen for everybody, obviously, or even him. But I think for the most part, like that environment can be good. It can actually work. For me, it was more just of like, did he do a good enough job? The results were not there. Did he handle these situations, the big moments in matches on the field or off the field in a good way? And for me, the answer was no.
Well, LA Galaxy trying to handle some of those moments in the right way right now. And coming up a little short, as we talked about on Monday, Chicharito had a lot to say. I don't know if you guys, we didn't talk about the photo of Chicharito, did we? Of him giving himself like the full-on wedgie.
Yeah, sitting. Yeah.
That's just what an incredibly fitting photo that is for the Galaxy season so far. They will host the San Jose Earthquakes in the Cali Classico, Dave. Galaxy under pressure. San Jose have not won away. San Jose have basically 5 games to sort of solidify themselves as this team that we've been talking about them as for a little bit now, of like a team that's truly good and has an upward trajectory. So is this at LA game, then they're at LAFC, so hanging around SoCal. Home against Dallas, at Seattle, at Colorado, then even Philly after that. I mean, look, every MLS schedule you go through, look at this, like, oh yeah, this is kind of tough. This could prove something. But it's a prime chance for Lucci to go away and win. Yeah,
get a win on the road, continue your form. If you want to be the team we want you to be, which I think San Jose fans and San Jose staff feel like they're on the verge of, which is like top 4 team contending at the top of the Western Conference, these are the games you win. And you go on the road, you pick up points against teams you should.
You kick somebody while they're down, basically.
You pick up all your home points, and like that's enough. You don't need to go and win at Philly and at LAFC 3 times in a season to be at the top of the Western Conference, but you need to get these points because the other teams have so far this season and will go and do that. LAFC's already gone into the Galaxy's building and gotten points. So I think for San Jose, this is an opportunity. They're a little thin right now. We're going to talk, I think, U20s in a minute, but Cade Cowell is headed to the U20 World Cup with the U.S., Nico Tsakiris as well. So Cade Cowell, a starter, and Tsakiris is your first guy up at the 2 sort of 8 positions, however you want to describe Jamiro Montero and Yule. So this is a thin team for San Jose. They've leaned on the same guys so far, and they've been fortunate. So they'd hope that continues. I do feel like this is a San Jose group that's built for a game like this. There's going to be gaps. There's gaps between the midfield and the back line. There's gaps in that back line. And San Jose has been really good about finding those openings and hitting them and hitting them and hitting them. And you've got players of the quality of Jeremy Abobasi, Christian Espinoza, and to a lesser extent, Jamiro Montero, who can take advantage. Like, if you think about this game, it's maybe Ald at left back, trying to bomb forward, leaving an exposed Martin Caceres that Christian Espinoza can take advantage of. Like, that's got to be a good matchup.
Well, it's Abobasi receiving the ball and having center backs sort of flock to him, and then having 3 runners off of him, a guy to bounce off of, 2 guys running in behind. I mean, those are the sort of moments so far, just from that positional play that San Jose has been so good at. Of like, hey, we know where our dudes are going to be. Do you know where yours are? And for the Galaxy on the back line and in the midfield, oftentimes, especially in those moments where they've.
The diamond for the LA Galaxy, I think it's fair. I think a lot of people have wanted them to play. I don't think anyone thought bringing Uri Rosell in, though, in 2023 was the fix there. Like, you'd assume it'd be Brugman at the base of that midfield. And I think part of that is like it probably puts Memo in a more comfortable spot than as a true winger that needs to beat guys 1v1 is bringing him inside, having him connect with the other players around him and work hard. So it's another one of those where it's like it feels like Vanny is like opening up his ideas to things, but then you don't really understand the execution of it. And that continues. And I think credit to Chicharito sort of, because I'm tired of Chicharito quotes, but credit to him sort of saying like someone else needs to come out here and explain.
What's he supposed to do? Score goals is one thing that he could do. No doubt about it. But
the Rosell one, I think you'd be bringing him in thinking you're going to have the ball and you're going to go against Colorado and you're going to have someone to play through it. But what ended up happening was it's just so easy to play through this team. And the space between the midfield and the back line was just gaping. And then you start having these center backs step out and leaving space, the completely jagged back line. And then you're just running in free. So if you give this San Jose front three those types of looks over and over, I mean, it could get ugly. I really think the San Jose team could do some damage. Because this back line, you'd have to be licking your chops if you're Ibobasi, if you're Espinoza, if you're these guys, you're looking at these center backs. Goalkeeper play also been an issue for Galaxy. Klinsmann got caught out again on set piece. So just a lot of different ways. San Jose is dangerous on set pieces. So a lot of different ways that this San Jose team could hurt them. And in a game in a rivalry where maybe there's extra to it. If
you're a San Jose fan, you are like, if you get up, you go. Like, I think if you're a San Jose fan, you want the catharsis of the last 8 years or whatever of you struggling and being bad and being confusing and all these things. You want it all to come out in this game. And if they play the way Kalen's talking about and the way we think they can, like, you want them to just keep going and going and going.
I mean, and the flip side is that the Galaxy are buried in a hole.
They'll probably win this game 5-0 because
we keep saying that. I mean, we keep saying that, but... if Kevin Cabral could do it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's go. All right, game to watch this weekend. We'll keep it on Rivalry Week as well. Anders has dictated that these are one-touch takes. So, Dave, what's your one-touch take on Atlanta-Charlotte? We do not yet know, by the way, that if Giakoumakis is going to be able to play. That seems to be sort of the crux of everything.
That's the biggest, I think that's the biggest idea or the biggest thing coming into this match because Charlotte's so thin at center back right now. We know Tui Loma's out. We saw Derek Jones have to go in there and play for Malanda on the weekend and then do it again in Open Cup play. So that's a real worry for Charlotte. I would say, though, I really liked their performance against NYCFC. Thought they found really good moments. They were able to use Westwood a little bit underneath Swiderski to pull some pieces around and find channels for either their fullbacks or the wingers. And Capetti and Swiderski made the right runs coming off that. So it feels for Charlotte like that was a stable performance. They were able to sort of get what they could out of Miram. They were able to get some performance out of Kervin Vargas off the bench and put Gaines in spots to be successful.
So some news on this game. Enzo Capetti suspended on yellow cards. So he is out. They don't really have hey, this is our backup forward that we're going to, it's an easy decision. Straight into the team for him. Camilo Jujuak came back in Open Cup, scored the winner, so he might be back. So it could be Jujuak and then Miram on the wings. Maybe it's Bender at that central attacking spot, and then
touches. How many touches?
Swiderski up top. Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm Ricky Pugin out here. I'm just sitting on the ball, just juggling midfield. Anyway, it should be an interesting one. Giakoumakis is a big question mark for Atlanta. Charlotte, by the way, have not won if they've had more than 52% possession. Atlanta can't do anything with the ball without Giakoumakis, at least of late. So I expect this to be Charlotte saying, "Hey, Atlanta, the ball is yours. Push numbers forward. We'll try to hit you on the break." Kalen, Sporting KC, Minnesota United.
Kansas City, keep the good vibes rolling, man. I mean,
the good times roll.
I was so impressed by the way they came out in Seattle and the start of the game. I thought it was, Vermees almost treated it like a playoff game.
I mean,
he had to.
I read an interview today from the ownership, from Mike Gillig, and they basically said, although they were like, yeah, we're going to stick with Peter, we'll see what he has with a full deck. They were like, we were thinking about maybe we need to make a change. And even just that thought coming into Sporting KC's ownership is a massive shift.
Well, he also said that they were only planning on playing Gadi Kinda maybe 30, 45 minutes. And I've never seen
from the start
that happen. He started him.
Yeah.
But
he thought it would be more clean.
You do get 5 subs now.
Sure. But being more clean is a way of saying, like,
we needed it.
We need this.
Yeah.
And
we can't wait.
We can't be
wait.
down 2-0.
No, that's a playoff move that you make. And it's not to say it was irresponsible. I don't want to like lead you down the wrong path. I think in some ways it can be easier to catch the pace of a game to begin with. And I've been in that position where I actually started a playoff game at Kansas City knowing I probably was going to pull my hamstring at some point. I don't know, 30, 45, ended up making about 35 right in the middle, right where I thought. But you start, it's easier to catch the pace of a game.
Just wait 30 minutes in, like, here it comes. Here it comes.
Strangely, actually, that's just like every game for me now. I'm like 30, 35, that's it. But yeah, I mean, he actually made a difference, right? He gets a touch on the Tommy goal in the first 5 minutes in the box. They got more numbers in the box as a result than we've seen them in the past. And then I think even Polito, his finish was great. I mean, that little slip ball, I think it was Tommy again, finds him. And then great finish. So it was a shock result, but I almost feel like in some ways this Kansas City team maybe getting away from Sporting Kansas City, from the home fans who are frustrated. We've talked about a bunch of frustrated teams right now. Sometimes going on the road from a player side can be nice just to say, all right, tough environment. We're going here to do that. This next one, I mean, they play Houston Open Cup. We'll see. You know, I got my eyes on that one, of course. But but they're playing at home against Minnesota United, and Son Bin-Chong has been a really, I think he's getting better, and is going to make a bigger impact on this team. So looking, it's the nicest rivalry, right?
It is very nice.
Okay.
Oh, bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. Open doors for strangers, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game as well. First time since 2021. It's just niceties, just general politeness.
Cool.
For
Bless
Minnesota
your heart.
folks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Takes so long to say. It's like we all could have moved on by now.
Well, that's very New York.
Classic Midwest.
I'm going Fire St. Louis City. St. Louis City lost to the Fire in Open Cup midweek with Frank Klopas on the bench. Klopas, I don't think we knew when we were talking about Ezra that Klopas was taking over. Or maybe we did. No, we did.
It was announced.
Yeah, the press release was there. Yeah. I think they'll go Chicago. Very pragmatic under Frank the rest of the way. I'm looking at a 4-2-3-1 if I had to guess. Not going to try to have a ton of possession. Hit teams on the break. Be good on set pieces. See where they can get from that base. That's sort of what they did to St. Louis City as well, who had the possession in this game but couldn't do much with it, which has been the theme for St. Louis ever since that incredible start. They got the 5-1 win against Cincinnati, but other than that, about the last 7 games, it's sort of been like, okay, well, maybe teams are figuring out a little bit, and I think Chicago are perfectly placed right now to go to that playbook, sit in, make St. Louis that Klaus, try to break them down, and if they can't, whether it be via pressure or otherwise, hit them on the break, and say, you're not going to be efficient enough. You're not going to create good enough chances to beat us. We won't beat ourselves, and we'll give ourselves 3-4 opportunities, and let's hope we score a goal. So, should be good. Is that a rivalry? What do you think? As a former Fire player yourself, well, we do know Chicago, St. Louis historically, especially in baseball, has been big.
Yeah, it could be.
It's a train ride. It's the Midwest.
St. Louis feels a bit of a linchpin of like, now you've who was Kansas City's rival? Who was Chicago's rival? Columbus is not that far away. Now you throw St. Louis in. It's like, oh yeah, all these cities already hate each other.
Yeah, it's good.
Hate is probably the wrong word.
But just like have existing consternation over the years.
I think it only happens. You have to have meaningful matches.
Yeah, I agree.
But
start with an Open Cup loss.
Exactly. Like
City are out.
Literally,
City.
We're coming to this weekend. I would say Dallas and Austin is a rivalry because immediately out the gates, they've played competitive games. They've played a playoff game already. Like there's juice there. So it doesn't take that long.
I don't know. That one doesn't have.
Kalen needs to be convinced.
I'm not,
okay, Houston.
Timbers, Vancouver also on the rivalry week side this week. Should be good. So tune in. You've got a standalone game. Chicago Fire, St. Louis City, 1 p.m. Eastern. Nigel Rio Coker and I on the pregame show. Just if you want to come hang with us.
Speaking of rivalries,
that game.
Nigel Rio Coker and Andrew Weavy
going at it.
Well, I've been away for a while, so
okay. Coming hot.
No socks
Coming
this
back
weekend.
hot.
We're
Nice. There you go.
We're bringing the heat. All right, where in the world is Kalen Carr? You're in the nation's capital, DC.
Oh, you could come out to
Nashville.
Germantown.
No,
or
man.
Boyd's.
I tore my ACL there. That's how this all started.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back there.
Yeah, it should be a fun match. You get to call Hani, etc.
Yeah. I think DC had been on the ascendancy. I think came back down to earth a little bit against FC Cincinnati, but still a team that's super dangerous. The way they play is very different from a lot of teams. I think the way they play so direct, and everything goes through Benteke. He's just, man, the way he brings down balls that have no business being brought down, like most strikers would be happy
with somebody
to
hanging on him,
get a head on it, and he's just like cushioning it delicately off his chest and then manipulating the ball in the air to turn and hit, or just taking it first time on overhead kicks. So I think he has 5 goals this year, 3 of them come with him facing the other direction.
I've got annoyance from Anders.
Did you?
Yeah, he's annoyed.
Okay.
He'd like us to move on.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's on Anders.
And Honey. Just watch it.
It's just
watch
the MVP, Anders.
Yeah.
Just Honey Mukhtar.
No time for the MVP, Anders.
Man, dude, unnecessary. You could have just moved on.
I could have.
Instead of calling
but there was a real
segment.
level of annoyance. If it would have been just like a cheery,
how long is
the
interview that we're going to run?
15, 20 minutes. It's great stuff. Michael Vang, playing for T2 now, won a championship, as we said last year, in MLSX Pro with the Columbus Crew. Grew up in St. Paul. He is from a family, both Laotian and Hmong. If you don't know about the Hmong people, go look them up. They do not have a country of their own, but they are in a number of countries in Southeast Asia and have immigrated to the United States and have some communities in particular in the upper Midwest, Minnesota and Wisconsin, and California as well. But Michael is making history. He is the first of the Hmong people on the male side to be a professional soccer player in the United States. He just got capped for the Laotian national team, and we had a fascinating conversation with him on Monday. Take a listen. It's our pleasure now to welcome on Michael Vang to Extra Time in honor of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the month of May. History being made by Michael, both with Crew 2 winning a championship last year, now with T2. But the first of the Hmong people, the first man to be a professional soccer player in the U.S. Hailing from St. Paul, Minnesota, man. What's up, Michael? How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
We're good. Let's do some story time here. I'm more interested in some stories, and I want to start with sort of your family, the history, both getting to St. Paul. I know there's a big Hmong community there, but also in the game of soccer. So sort of tell me about where this obsession, I think is probably the right word, in your family for the game comes from.
It came from my dad. He grew up in France playing soccer and then moved over to the United States when he was 21. When we were younger, I was about 5 years old when I started playing. He showed us a movie called Shaolin Soccer, which kind of just sparked that interest in playing for my siblings and I. And 2005, he started a club called St. Paul United, and that's kind of where we started playing and, competitively against other teams in Minnesota, and gradually went on to play for Minnesota Thunder Academy in the U.S. Development Academy, which is now MLS Next. And then my junior and senior year, I moved to Shattuck St. Mary's, which is like a private boarding school, kind of like IMG Academy. So I was living there for 2 years and then finished high school there. And then committed to play at the University of Pacific in Stockton, California. And then decided to leave early for the first 2 weeks, and then went to play for a third division team in Portugal called Primeiro Dezembro. And then came back to the States in 2019 and signed with Forward Madison in the USO1. Spent 2 years there, and obviously went to Columbus Crew, and then now it's Timbers.
Tell me about those early days with your siblings, with your dad. Is this a playing in the backyard situation? What was that like?
I mean, we spent hours. I don't know how long. We probably spent all day in the backyard. My dad would be out there. My mom would be out there. Train early morning, go back, eat, come back outside, play again. And then that was basically every single day. We wouldn't be here without, my dad and my mom. My dad, he's basically the backbone. He's the one that kind of guided us through and, this whole journey. And he's still, to this day, he's still helping me as much as he can, like after games, saying what went wrong, what I could have done better, what I did good, what I need to improve on. So he's still here to this day, trying to push me.
What was that community like? I think it's the east side of St. Paul, if I'm correct. Like, is soccer? Were you the only kids on the street playing? Like, what were you surrounded by people that loved the game? Was your dad an outlier, or was this sort of something that was sort of natural for all of you?
it was natural, but it grew way more over the past few years since we started. Especially for my generation growing up. I would say when we were growing up, there wasn't too many especially Hmong athletes to look up to where we can say, dang, I wanna be there and stuff. But I feel like now you have guys who are breaking barriers and basically leading by example, to give that younger generation something to they can look forward to and possibly become one day.
When I was in St. Paul, I did a whole piece on the sort of the beginnings of soccer in Minnesota, professional soccer, and I went to a youth tournament, and there was a team that was absolutely balling out. And I went and talked to the coach, and it was a team of Hmong kids, and I think it was St. Paul United, if I remember correctly. What is the club like? Like what are the and what are the kids like when you go back and see these next generations, this legacy of not just your dad but you as well? Do you feel proud of that?
Oh yeah, just looking back on it, we were a really small club. We weren't, one of those big names in Minnesota where teams would see and be afraid to play, But we would be that club that would surprise everyone when we'd go to tournaments and they would be like, man, these kids are super good. And then that's when they would start remembering us. So the next tournament we would play, that's when they're like, oh no, we're playing St. Paul United. So definitely as time went on, we started getting a name for ourselves, and kids individually started getting their names out there. And I think just back then growing up when I was playing for St. Paul United, that passion that we played with and just that joy that we had when we played, we all basically came from the same background as each other and was fighting for the same thing. And we just all wanted to continue to grow and get better every single day, but also have fun doing it. And I think that was kind of the environment that you get at St. Paul United.
You're still pushing, obviously, in your career, but I have to imagine you look back on it, you look at the path you took, and to be the first male Hmong player in the U.S. to be pro, there's something special to that. Not just for you, but for the people around you that helped you get there. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. I mean, obviously I didn't take your normal path to pros where you go to college, you get drafted and everything like that. I kind of took a different route going overseas and then coming back. That was a big risk that I decided to take. And it was something that I don't regret doing. And I'm actually proud of myself for actually taking that chance and doing it. And just showing the younger generation that, everyone's route is different to success. And I just think that showing them that, to persevere and go through hard times and rejection over and over again, it'll pay off in the end. And it's obviously becoming the first Hmong American to play in the United States. When I first signed with Forward Madison, that was a relief was lifted off my shoulders. But obviously that was just a start, and I still have to prove myself every single day. So just showing that to the young kids not even in Minnesota, but Hmong kids everywhere in the States, that it is possible and that we could, reach this level and even go higher.
Do you feel any pressure?
A lot of pressure. When I first signed with Madison, every time I played, I struggled to cope with pressure. So I kind of had to stay off social media because I always caught myself reading comments from other the older Hmong generation about me and just reading into it. And I think that's what really put pressure on me. So when I stopped doing that, it finally, I was able to relax and just, enjoy myself when I play.
When you think, I mean, I imagine that there are all these kids, whether it's in St. Paul United or otherwise, looking at you and sort of dreaming. That's what kids do, right? They look for an example and they try to emulate it. You talked about Sheldon soccer, and I wonder, growing up, who were you looking up to? What were there people, within the Hmong community or otherwise that you were saying, hey, that's a path that I can take? How did you think about that and representation within your own path?
As in terms of someone in Minnesota, I honestly didn't have someone that was that far up to look up to, but just in terms of who I wanted to play like, it was he was only a few years older than me. His name was Kapao. He played in, I think, third division in Thailand recently. He was someone that I really looked up to and admired a lot, and just how he played on the field is something I wanted to emulate in my game. And yeah, but I would say growing up, it was kind of it was far to see professional. My goal was kind of just college and stuff like that. And then I think once I started getting called into national team camps when I was 14, that's when I realized that maybe I could probably turn this into something that I can make a career out of. And then I think that's when I realized that, okay, maybe I might be that guy who has to lead by example for the younger generation and just kind of give them a pathway to playing at the higher level.
Do you get kids hitting you up from the Hmong community or otherwise, just saying, hey man, I see you doing it?
Yeah, I mean, they show a lot of love and just, telling me that, hey, I look up to you, any advice that you can give me. And I just try to give back as much as I can and kind of just help them because obviously I went through it. So any way I can help.
Tell me about the last couple of years of your career. You signed with Forward Madison and then make the jump to Crew 2. And last year, I see on Instagram you got to get the trophy pick. You got to have that, man. It's got to be on the feed. And now you're in Portland. Tell me about your career, where you've been and where you hope you're going.
Obviously last year playing with Columbus Crew was a great organization. Obviously, we wanted to be the first ones to win MLS Next Pro because it was the first year. We wanted to make history, and it was just a great group of guys there, and I enjoyed every single part of it. And now being at the Timbers, it's just a big family here. I appreciate everything that I've been given here, and the coaching staff, the players, the facility, the resources that we have here. I've been taken in with open arms, and I'm grateful for it.
Tell the people at home about you as a player, maybe who haven't caught Next Pro games or haven't seen you.
I would say I'm a technical player who likes to create and, just help the team in any way I can. Just giving my all every single time I step on the field, and try to get results for my team and would work for my teammates. Would try to throw in a little bit of flair in there, here and there and stuff in my game, but I would say that's kind of who I am.
And now you're a fully capped international. Congratulations. In the
Thank
U.S.
you.
system as a teenager, but the Laotian national team, I saw a couple games there earlier this year. Tell us about that experience, man. How did it come about, and what did it mean to you? What did it mean to your family?
Yeah, it was a surreal experience. Being able to represent my motherland country. So I've been looking into it for a while, and then they finally hit me up back in October saying, "Hey, we're thinking about calling you in for a camp and stuff." And when I got that call up, it was just like, dang, I get to represent a national team, let alone be the country where my family and my ancestors come from. And obviously the language barrier was kind of tough for me because I couldn't really speak the language there, but guys and the whole federation welcomed me, and were able to integrate me right away into the team. And just playing that first game, being able to wear, the crest, and it was just an incredible feeling, and I couldn't really express into words how I was feeling when that national anthem played. I actually got chills when at that first game, just hearing like my teammates basically scream that national anthem, and it just gave me chills. So obviously you want to, when you're playing at the national team level, you're playing for a country, you're representing a country. And for me, I was kind of representing Lao people, but also I would say I was representing Hmong people as well. Because Hmong people, we don't have a country, but majority come from Laos. So I would say I was representing two different things, like Hmong and Lao people, which was something that was that kind of put a lot of pressure on me, but I think I dealt with it really well, based off the performances with Laos. And I would just say it's something that I'm grateful for and I'm excited to do again.
What did your family think, man? And I also saw the Hmong. Is there a Hmong Football Federation now? I saw something popping out.
Yeah. So my parents, they were extremely happy. They wanted me to take the chance right away when I got that call, without hesitation. It's a great way to play with the national team. Also, just keep getting my name out there more, and being able to represent Laos. So, but with the Hmong, I think it's with the Kanifa Federation, which is like for, those clans that really don't have countries. And so Hmong people, the Hmong national team just started up and got accepted into the Kanifa. So I don't know when the national team will be starting, but that's something that I'm really excited to see and looking forward to.
Michael, we appreciate your time, man. All the stories from your life, from your family's life. I would encourage those at home that don't know about the Hmong people to go do some research. It's a history that has it's a fascinating history. I'll just say HWONG. Big communities in Minneapolis, St. Paul, as well as in Wisconsin and California. And Michael, congratulations on your success, man. It was awesome to see the photos as I went back and did the research of your experience with the Laotian national team and climbing this ladder, man. So congratulations, and we look forward to following you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Big thanks to Michael for joining us for what is May, what is the Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We talked about this last year in light of Stop Asian Hate as well. That's still an ongoing thing, so I'd encourage you to go read about that. Go read about the history of Asians and Pacific Islanders in the United States. There's a deep, rich, incredible history that doesn't get taught, doesn't get talked about, but is a very important part of this country, this continent's history. So go check that out. Thank you again to Michael Vang for joining us. U20 roster is out. Mikey Veras says that, let's see, his captain is a man I watched yesterday in Montclair, New Jersey.
Danny Edelman
is going to wear that C. So big names on this one. Gago Slonina is here. Justin Shea is here. We know him from FC Dallas and now with Hoffenheim. Brandon Craig got a goal for the Union in Open Cup action. He is on this team
Jonathan
as well.
Gomez.
Yeah. It's a good team. There are some missing players here. We knew that guys like Gutierrez from the Fire as well as Brady were not going to be there. Many people hoped that Paxton Aronson or Ricardo Pepi might be in this team. They are not, so they'll look to the likes of Quinn Sullivan and Darren Yappy and Cade Cal and Kevin Paredes for goals. Owen Wolf, I would think, would be a really big part of this team in the midfield.
It's loaded midfield. I mean, if you eat, take an MLS game, right? Daniel Edelman, Jack McGlynn, Owen Wolf, Obed Vargas, all of those guys start.
Diego Luna, not a starter necessarily.
Yeah, but those guys I just said, all of them are starters, but all of them are really central players. So it'll be interesting. We saw Wolf play on the wing last year with Austin just to get into the team. And obviously his brother Tyler's a winger and Josh was a forward. So he has a little bit of familiarity there. I think Paredes will be big for this team. He's like one of the rare 1v1 guys who can create chances for this side. But listen, I've said this a couple times. I think the value of youth national teams has gone down for development in the US and Canada as the professional ranks have improved their ability to develop players. We've seen that on the sales side. Like 10 years ago, there's no way Chicago Fire are not sending a Brady Scott and a Brian Gutierrez. But Gaga Slonina sold for a record number just because he played for the Fire. So why wouldn't you play Brady Scott in the same setting? I think a lot of these things have changed for player development, but that doesn't mean it's not fun.
Well, the other thing, I think the one part for me for development, though, is it's important for a player to be the best player on your team and to have that pressure on you. Because we don't see that a lot, right? You're going to see these guys, you mentioned all of them. None of them are the focal point of their team. And if they are, they shouldn't be, right? Like that's...
I was going to say, Edelman maybe is at times.
Darren Yappy is carried a lot, right, for Colorado, but that's probably not what the role should be. Whereas this is a place where I think he should be. And I still see like moments. I watching the Seattle game last week, right? Obed Vargas gets the ball on the top of the box, throws a step over or two, and I was like, wait, what's going on here? I didn't know that was a part of his game. And maybe that's just my naivete, but there are parts of these guys' games that haven't quite been able to come out in full expression in an MLS environment. And that's a part of the development where maybe at the U20 level, it's your team, Owen Wolf. It's your, you grab this team. You've now had experience trying that, with the MLS level. But I think a part of that development is like pressure, playing with the national team, playing against top competition for your age, but also feeling a little bit bigger, being able to stand up a little bit taller to say, I'm gonna, there you go, Weeby.
Puff that chest up.
to take more ownership of a team. And I think for these young guys, I'm always excited to watch them play in these environments because you see a little bit more of them.
I think Jim Curtin spoke about the social or the experience part, right? Like there's a life experience thing. Diego Luna posting like, I'm in Argentina. Like that's really exciting. I also think FIFA events are unique. Right? It's like everything's different. It's not an MLS game. It's not the thing you're comfortable with. It's join a team that you're not with all the time, learn everything, show up when the bus tells you to for a FIFA event, get your passport checked, get walked through, do the walkout. The music's the same. Like those experiences you can't replicate. And so I think there's value there in terms of like, you think guys are going to be national team players, get them the opportunity now. We've also seen how valuable recruiting is in the national team program and like, having a connection with guys, a personal connection, having them feel a part of the program is also really big. And I think you see that in some of the guys who are called up and who you're committed to and who the coaching staffs are talking to and all that. But this is a good team. And this is a team, I think every single time this comes around, every 4 years or whatever it ends up being.
Is it? I think it's 2.
No, I think you might be right.
It's 2.
It feels like there are more guys who start every game at a pro level, who are playing at a first team level. And I love that there are a lot of guys who could be in this team, but aren't because their professional teams are like, no, they're already here, right? For Paxton Aronson, you go to a tournament like this to get sold to Eintracht Frankfurt. You're already in Eintracht Frankfurt. Like that's not what you need to do. Josh Sargent had to go to a U20 World Cup to get his move. Pepe already got his move. He's already in the first team for a national team. Like he doesn't need to go. So I think we are steps ahead. It'll be interesting because we've been successful at the U20 level since 2015 now. And that's been the one sort of space where 17s, we've struggled at times. Obviously for Weeby, the 23s and the Olympics.
Yeah, the Olympics,
heartbreaking. Absolutely.
That's what the value of this is, obviously, is to prepare these guys for a potential Olympic success. But it is nice, I think, for the players to test themselves against their peers, too. So, I'm going to pick New Mexico for our cup set, by the way.
That's a thing we're doing?
Yeah, we said we were going to. We never did it. It just occurred to me.
Okay,
so I'm taking New Mexico. That by process of elimination, you now have Lounded. So
do we all have to scroll back through the
No, we don't. This, how you feeling, Anders? You good with this? No, I'm just messing with you, man. All right, that's it for us. We'll see you on Monday. Enjoy Match Day 12 in Major League Soccer. MLS Season Pass is your spot for that rivalry week. Adios.